Hello, good evening, and thank you for attending our board meeting. We call this board meeting of the Nelson County Board of Education to order on April 21st, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. Please join Mackenzie Childress as she leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mackenzie. We appreciate that. We will move along to section 2, changes to our agenda.
So we did make one change to the agenda after some conversation with Ms. Owens today. We removed the BG1 that was originally on the media notice that went out yesterday, and we'll revisit that in the May work session.
All right, thank you. Section 3A, NTI learning experience from our team leads.
Hey guys, so we're just going to show you what Caring Connecting has looked like across the district, and we're going to start with a video, and it's a lengthier video, but it shows you just how meaningful some of these relationships can be through our virtual experiences. So I'll lead it to the video.
We're going to get rocking and rolling. I just want to go over a couple things in our slide deck. Okay, today with our lesson for community collaboration, we are really looking into sharing Nelson County awesomeness. So good morning, it's great to be together again. And our question for the day is, what would you have done differently 3 months ago if you knew where your life would be now? First, we just start with our greeting, and then I'll have some sort of activity. It might be they have to show me something in their house, or they have to put something in the chat. But it's just usually a question, and then sometimes we'll do a breathing technique or a dance together. And then after we do that, we go over the agenda for the day, and I just share my screen and show them their agenda and explain their assignments for the day, and then we'll have share time. And usually the share time is what lasts the longest. Some of them don't get to talk to their friends at all, except for when they're on the meet. So it's a really good time for them to connect with their peers, and they're doing show and tell every day, like they're showing me their dogs and their ferrets and just crazy things. It's really cool because it's things that we wouldn't get to see if we were at school. We're trying to think of ways that we can still do the things like that we had in Living Leader Calendar, that all these plans and all these special events that we've always we're very much looking forward to. So we're just trying to look at this as not a constraint, but opportunity to still create. So for instance, right now with My Parent Connect, we're trying to come up with ideas that we can still do our general serve project, but in a social distancing way.
The biggest value we're finding is trying to keep some normalcy in like the middle of everything going crazy right now. I think that's one of the biggest things. Plus, it's a good place to kind of touch base with the kids. It gives them an idea of like what to expect for the day. I think it just continues to keep that like school culture. I think that's a big piece too.
Because if we don't keep in touch, then we'll kind of like not like interact with each other anymore, and then we'll go back and we'll forget everything, and then we have to interact with the teachers in order to learn stuff while we're at home.
I'm really seeing like the true personalities of the people in My Parent Connect and My Parent Connect leader, Miss Harvard and Miss Burdett. Just kind of seeing like them like in their house, really with like no makeup on, their hair's not done. It's just kind of like showing their natural state, and I think that is kind of awesome. Like I love being able to have that long experience with my Parent Connect teacher and my peers. This has just really helped us like come together closer and connect in our community.
You won't get much social interaction when you're sitting at home. You can't exactly go outside, go to the store, go to movies with your friends. So it makes people feel what makes you and everybody you connect with feel less lonely during this, very stressful time. It's just better for mental health.
So since we're not together for their birthdays, I have several April birthdays, and they were really upset that they weren't going to be together. So they have created, or we created, a Google Meet for birthdays. So every time it's somebody's birthday, we'll meet for 30 minutes on that day, and they'll make digital cards. And somebody even made like a meme with a little space on it, and then we all have treats together at our homes. So, and that was completely their idea. There was someone in the past that really needed help on the narrative and how it started, so I went over and I helped them, and they really thanked me, and I felt really good in the inside. And then Miss Gray, she always says she's there for us if we need, like, in our ups and downs and all that.
Miss Harbin, I have her personal cell phone number, and she always finds a way to kind of reach out to me, like, hey, how are you doing? Like, you still doing okay? And the same with my coach. My coach Smith, she does that a lot too. Just kind of making sure that if I need anything, I just let her know, like, or if I'm doing okay, anything like that. And that's really encouraged me to step out of my comfort zone and go talk to my other peers or people that's on my softball team that I really don't like talk to that much. And so that's just really inspired me to kind of go that extra mile and do that for my teammates and my other peers.
Mr. Mudd and a bunch of my other teachers, they've had extra meetings, like, oh, you can call this number or you can email me at this if you need anything at all. It doesn't even have to be about school. So I really like how they're going out of their way to make sure that us as students feel like a way to get help instead of being like, oh, I have to join this meeting at like 10:15 or I won't be able to get help for the rest of the week. Yeah, you should join that meeting, but if something happens, your teachers are there for you. So I really, that's their kind of way of showing kindness towards me.
Truly, I feel like with caring, connecting, creating, we're all really using this as an opportunity to see how we can learn and grow together. I'm so inspired every day by everything that our team brings. So I feel like, we all have our own strengths, but at the same time, there's some things that, maybe you are better at this or I'm better at this, and we all really complement each other well. And being able to share those ideas together, what you're doing for this virtual learning week, I really have to commend the whole entire team, and I'm very blessed to be a part of it.
So you all kind of had a good glimpse of what our teachers are doing really to bring humanity to the experiences we're having. And I've talked about this before on Community Brew about this phenomena around caretaking and how caring and connecting is becoming so important. It was always important to us, but during this time, we've just really gotten to lean into it and say, Jeff, you mentioned belonging. How do you create belonging when somebody's sitting in houses away from you? Well, there's a way to do it through Care and Connect. And like they said, they're having people's phone numbers, they're checking on each other. This is also how we collect the caretaking data across the district to feed our transportation and our foods program. And just the importance that this little piece of what we do every day in our schools around caring and connecting is bringing humanity to this work and is so vitally important to our kids' well-being. And so you see some pictures down there along what else this looks like around Caring Connecting. The parades are going on. Like, I'm so excited to be a part of a district where our elementary schools are going out to our kids' houses and celebrating them. We're having Wellness Wednesdays on the Community Brew. Jonathan Harrison is just one example, although most of our wellness teachers are doing this, and leading these physical wellness courses throughout the day to get kids up and moving. And then these house and Care and Connect times are just so critical to continue the development and the healthy development of our kids. And so I'm going to let some other people spread the wealth here and let others talk about what this caring and connecting with kids looks like. So I believe Jeff is our next one.
Good afternoon. Transportation has been filling a support role with the food service deliveries on delivery days, Tuesdays and Fridays. We run about 13 buses due to the restrictions, the over 60 and the health problems. that cut me down to about 30 team members who can participate in that. But those folks have been showing up every day. We run about 400 miles a day. About 15,000 meals so far have been delivered. We also do the Frisk backpacks on Friday. And on Tuesdays, we deliver materials, technology, and unmailable materials. So I had one bus driver tell me today that's the most exercise she's gotten in years, because they actually get off the bus and go knock on the door to make sure those kids get their food. So they're enjoying what they're doing at this point.
Hey, everybody. So during this very unprecedented time, the nutrition services team really had to reshift their priorities. And we wanted to really focus on keeping ourselves safe, continuing to caretake for students and families, and also utilize our resources intelligently. So with the help of many other departments, the wonderful nutrition services staff has successfully served over 37,000 meals during the extended NTI period. And really our team is blessed to still be able to care for our students and families.
Good evening, everyone. A little bit about what family caretaking has looked like during this time. I really have two groups of people that are driving the forefront of this work with caring, connecting, and creating with our families. Our family caretakers in each school have supported families with online registration for the 2021 school year. And at this time, in a 3-week time period, have got almost 50% of students registered for next school year. Our Frisk have organized the distribution of over 200 backpack meals that have gone out weekly. These are those supplemental meals that families depend on to get through the weekend. We've connected with families. Our family caretakers have supported schools in communication. A lot of them have set up Google Voice so that our families are connected to their schools and the phone isn't just ringing. We have someone there picking it up. Our Frisk has also completed home visits and weekly checks on our families that are in most need of the resources and making sure those families feel the support. We've created a lot of opportunities. Family caretakers are creating their own supports for communication within their buildings. Again, just making sure that they are creating new ways to reach out to families and make that possible for other team members that they work with. Our Frisk have really been creating the coolest virtual family experiences. One kicks off here in 15 minutes, Puzzle Palooza. They had scavenger hunts for families to be a part of last week as well. And I think next week they even have some Kahoot games in store. So really bringing families together this time, pushing some literacy, making sure books are in students' hands that need them. So our Frisk have been a huge part of this work in getting those resources out there.
Hello, the workforce development team has been busy supporting our students and also thinking about conversations with employers. So as soon as we were aware that there were going to be some changes with the calendar and NTI, the workforce development team started reaching out to our students and families and just talking about what work-based learning could look like and would look like through this experience, and engaging families in that along with our employers. So we are having weekly touch points with our students who have been engaged in these work-based experiences. We currently have 60 students, or around 60 students. This number changes weekly, that are engaged in some type of community-based experience. That ranges from our virtual experiences with our students involved in the Coding Academy with Elizabethtown Community and Technical College, to various experiences out in our community. We're also taking advantage during this time to be talking to our current junior class. So each of our high schools are having individual conversations with our junior class and families regarding what their schedule will look like next year, along with what their work-based experience will be. So today, we have around 160 experiences going into next year. Some of those are duplicated experiences where we may have 4 or 5 students engaged in one experience, but the workforce team is continuously reaching out to that junior class and also having conversations with employers, recognizing that the conversation we have with employers might look a little different going into next year with what we might be looking at from a workforce perspective.
So what you just saw is you saw our very first iHeart NC hype video, and we had that made for our spring recruiting fairs. We did make it to one recruiting fair at U of L before the quarantine began. And so we had several places that were going to cancel the recruiting fairs, and we reached out to WKU. It's our largest recruiting fair. There are 180-ish candidates each year. And we just simply worked with the GREC and WKU and about 40 other HR directors across the state to offer a virtual recruiting fair. So basically what we have is we have this table of contents that leads to each booth, and candidates right now, you can go ahead and click on it, Carla. So each, Whitney Klein and I created a slide template, and each county then, or school district then put their information on this, while at the same time WKU was working with their students to create a few slides about themselves for us to look at. And the bottom line is that they utilized all of these slides to determine which booths they will visit. And this basically, you are in our booth pretty much right now. So they will determine which booths they'll visit. And on Monday, April the 27th, you can see in that little arrow that our Google Hangout at the very bottom left, our Google Hangout virtual booth is on Monday, April 27th. That's next Monday. And when students or candidates click that link, they come into a Google meeting, much like we're having right now, and we get to talk to them about our district. We also have principals that have been reaching out to them based on the slides that they made for us to invite them, to personally invite them to our booth. So each candidate is required to attend 6 booths on Monday and 6 booths on Tuesday. And we have 39 districts that are involved in this. And then pretty exciting as well, UK was going to cancel their job fair, and they are now working with us. They would like for us to help them build a virtual job fair like this. So Whitney and I are going to also be working with UK. So that's basically how recruiting has gone NTI.
All right, so thank you guys for giving us some time to talk about some of the work going on. I think we knew when this started that continuing to think about how we connect with each other and learn together was going to be really important as we We didn't know if it was going to be a couple weeks or a couple months or what that was going to look like, but that was important. And so with Brooke's assistance and kind of visioning this out together, we were able to create the community brew. We were just able to do it via YouTube. And I know a couple of y'all have jumped in some different times, and that's been an everyday occurrence. So we've had different groups of people, different students, parents. We've had some people from our community. We've had some people that have written books. And so we initially started with reading some things together, talking through that, and having some different groups of people in our district really think about what the implications of our work is around teaching students in the midst of this work. One of the things that we realized last week was we had over 250 students that were ready to do the gift showcase on March the 13th that we had to end up canceling. And so those students had created they had devoted a lot of time to getting ready for that. And we wanted to make sure that we honored that work and allowed that to occur. So this week we actually started with doing gift showcases with each of our schools. And Monday was Boston and today was Bloomfield Elementary. And both of those schools, they've done some really powerful work with kids really getting to share what they've done this year, some things that I had no idea about that they have talked about on those days. So you can see the schedule. That happens every morning at 8:30 on our YouTube channel. And so that's a really powerful time. We have had anywhere from 40 to 60 people that have joined on those YouTube lives. And then this week, because we've been showcasing students, we've also done Facebook Live as well. And so I think combined with those, we've had well over 100 people that have been tuning in to watch our students showcase that. In addition, as Robin mentioned, on Wednesdays, we've been doing wellness as a community. And so we have someone that's been a teacher, I think, the last few times that have led us in wellness at 8 o'clock. And then this week, we've also started using the YouTube Live channel for story time at 2. And so our district library media specialists have been working with Brooke to take each school community and have a story time for our students. And then there's also some other services that Brooke and the library media specialists have created with coloring pages with our mascots and those sorts of things that our kids have access to as well. So that's some of the work that's been going on to try to leverage our technology, and excited about the work ahead. And we'll continue that for as long as we remain in school. So thank you guys for that.
So in technology, we realized pretty early on that internet access at home was going to be an issue for some of our students. So we drove around as a tech team looking for wireless hotspots in the community and documenting those, and mailed out a one pager to all the kids that don't have internet access so that they could maybe go somewhere and sit in the car for a little bit and at least get some assignments and get some internet access. Chromebook repairs have been a little bit of a challenge at this time, but we're working through it. We're repairing Chromebooks at central office right now, of course, staggering shifts and things like that. We're also working on internet access community partnerships. Some of those might not be realized until maybe the next school year, but we're trying to figure out ways to extend internet access to the kids that don't have them, maybe even some extended infrastructure in the community. Help desk is continuing to operate. We're trying to treat that as normal, although the things we're doing aren't quite as normal. Vincent today walked a parent through, we call it power washing a Chromebook, but basically it's wiping and re-enrolling the Chromebook, and he did that with a parent. So I thought that was pretty cool. So we're just continuing to operate like that and do what we can. I'm gonna pass it on to Tiffany Clark.
Hi, everyone. Well, for Gifted Minds, we've kind of been business as usual, just in a different format. We learned early on when this happened, we had a lot of things we needed to think through, and one of those being a virtual gift showcase. So our staff have worked with families to keep us on schedule and continue with our student gift showcases and creating our future story learning plans for next school year, for the rest of this school year and next school year. As far as the classroom goes, we've had different formats in that as well. We have therapists and teachers who are collaborating with our special ed and general ed teachers to provide supports for each of our individual students. Supports do look different based on their individual plans and really what families determine is a necessity at this time. With therapy in mind, we've actually jumped on the teletherapy bandwagon, and our therapists have done an amazing job of learning what platforms are useful and how to kind of navigate that. We do have some parents that have taken that piece on, and then some others who really want different support. So most of all, our staff has been very flexible in working with our families to see what kind of supports they really need during this time, knowing that every day can be challenging when you're dealing with multiple kids and different things going on in the home. So overall, we have continued with services and really based that on individual student needs and families. Thanks, guys.
So guys, you have got the opportunity to see just the amazing thing that's going on. Like school is still happening, and it's happening in these amazing formats where teachers and students and staff are getting even closer together through this virtual platform. And so we just want to take this, or I want to take this minute just to say thank you as the conclusion of this. Thank you to our teachers and our staff, our facilities, our cafe, our bus drivers, anybody I've left out there, I'm sorry, but it's just, there's so many across the district that are just doing some really powerful things. I have to give a special shout out to our cafe and our bus drivers, facilities too. They are really rocking and rolling and making sure our kids have what they need, whether it's materials or food. And that's just, to meet basic needs like that, it's just critical. And I'm so thankful for them. So that's it for us. Thank you for letting us talk to you about this stuff going on.
Thanks so much, Robin. And thank you all for all the updates. It's very encouraging, and we appreciate all that you're doing. I think we can move to section 3A, NTI learning experience. No, let's see, that would be 3B, I think.
Wait a minute.
Calendar and graduate update.
I got a question.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I appreciate all the hard work, really do. But one thing I would like to know is, how do we know our students are taking their responsibility during all this time to do their work? Are they logging? And I know they're logging in, but I'm just wondering, how do we know that their learning is proceeding the way it should? Is there some sort of a process that as a board member or as a board, we can know, like Jesse can tell how many kids have been online, how many hours they've been online? I'm just concerned about that part.
Yeah, I can speak to that. And I guess the answer is we absolutely do not, because there's no way to compare what we're doing now to what we were doing previously. I think our three priorities, care, connect, create, as you've seen tonight, a big part of our focus has been making sure that we are providing essential resources to families and students. We also have been working to ensure that students have access and their families have access to those essential resources. I think the traditional assumptions about, let's say, assessments, grading, and those things that we know make up the industrial construct of schooling that we have come to appreciate are probably not going to be as consistent and reliable in a case where students aren't in the classroom all day. At the same time, I think it depends on the grade level. It depends on the teacher. Depends on the class. So I will say that the feedback we've been getting from our conversations with principals and teachers has been that while learning has looked different, that they're finding new value in different types of conversations and different types of work with students. I think at the same time, Jesse Morgan, who mentioned that we have a few families that don't have internet access in our community. We've been working to continue to support with that. We have a diverse community, and we have some diverse challenges that we face during this time. And anyone that would say otherwise, that there is consistency, I think would be not telling the truth. So in terms of 100% consistency, you're not going to have that in terms of I think growth and opportunity to innovate and grow, we're seeing a lot of that. And that's really where it is.
You're talking about growth. Oh, give me an example, please.
So I can hop in. One of the things, I get two things that we've done pretty early on. One was that we asked schools from the very beginning of this to have a weekly touch point with every kid. And that's not a perfect science. Obviously, we have students that come from a variety of backgrounds and variety of situations. But I would say that for the most part, our school has been very diligent with that. So that's part of keeping track of whether students are engaged, whether or not they have the resources they need, whether or not they've had a situation occur where maybe they have internet access and they had a Chromebook, but it broke, and now they need a different mechanism to complete work. I think the other thing that we are required to do from the state is gather work samples from each school each day of NTI. So we have a process where schools are able to submit evidence of that. I keep track of that because that's something that I have to provide the Kentucky Department of Education once all of this is over. So we've seen some really creative things I think that schools have done. I can speak as a parent. My first grader has a weekly guided reading time with his teacher, so they have a Google Meet. He gets one-on-one reading support, which has been really powerful. My preschooler is engaged in some very thoughtful, like exercise movement and opportunities to do that. We've seen our one of the things that was part of the Create was around like passions and kids exploring passions, and so we've seen kids learning how to cook. We've seen kids learning how to garden. We've seen kids, doing things that they otherwise would not have had a chance to do in a traditional school. We've also really seen some reading and writing take off. So our schools have been really thoughtful with do students have books? If they don't have books, is that something our transportation team can help provide with materials? And how do we engage kids in writing via Google Docs, via some of these other mechanisms? So there's lots of different things going on. But those two systems, I would say from the beginning, weekly contact and then submitting work samples have been, I think, crucial to ensure that we're having a lot of engaging things take place.
Okay, thanks, Chase. That's what I wanted to hear. I want everybody that's listening, I want them to know, especially other parents, to know how we know that students are getting what they need and the education, they're engaged in learning. That's so thank you very much.
Hey,
Thank you, Diane, for chiming in.
Mr. Dickerson,
Yes, sir.
if I can real quick too, I just want to give a shout out. And I don't see that they are directly joined into this Google Meet, but I'm going to assume that she's probably watching on YouTube. Boston's principal and their staff down there. So folks down in your neck of the woods, Miss Di, back about a month ago, their PE teacher allowed me to join in with their fourth grade PE class when they were doing alphabet yoga one day on a Google Meet. And the things that struck me about that PE teacher was he shared with those students his home. And I think it was Miss Whitlow that said early on, she's enjoyed seeing each of us and where our home office is so that, maybe we see pictures on the wall of family or whatever. And this PE teacher at Boston took his laptop out into his barn. And apparently, this teacher lives in a barn. It is one of those unique scenarios where he has a house that you walk out the back deck and you are in the riding arena and the horse stall area. And to hear the students start to talk with that teacher and ask questions, to me, really helped make that connection more between the student, those fourth graders, and their teacher, and something that never would have been able to have happened except for this very unique situation we're in. So one, I learned that our teachers are very, very willing to invite us into their classrooms, whether it's in person or through virtual meetings. I learned that students are very adept at these technologies they quickly learned virtual meeting etiquette about muting their mics and how to have conversations in chat windows. And finally, the third thing I learned was I was extremely out of shape because 20 minutes worth of yoga with those fourth graders wore me out. And I have not been back to his PE class since for obvious reasons.
What that which doesn't kill you, right, Mr. Jackie? All right. Does anyone else have any other comments, any shout outs, any thank yous they'd like to? If not,
Yeah, I'll just say real quick, Jeff Marchese and Jessica Hogue, everybody's been working hard across the district. There's no question about it. Jeff and Jessica have had to work exceptionally hard over the past 5 to 6 weeks to totally revise a system and an infrastructure that really didn't exist to support them. And that's something that is that's very unique. Also, just a shout out to the work that Brooke and Chase have been doing on the Community Brew Live every morning. It takes a lot of work to bring that to life every morning. Obviously, our schools, our teachers, and our administrators have taken on a life over the last 5 weeks that they didn't anticipate, and have really, we really, in our experiences, have seen nothing but a can-do, impossible attitude. And it's, I think, largely those folks that were doing great work and had momentum continue to build on that momentum into this experience, and will continue to take it out of this experience. So a lot to be proud of.
nice. Absolutely, sure is. With no further ado, if we can move to section 3B, I believe is calendar and graduation updates. Mr. Goff.
All right. So yesterday, the governor and the commissioner of education had a conference call with districts talking about the decision to close schools for the remainder of the year. And one of the things that Kevin Brown, who's the interim commissioner of education, talked about was the plan of what that looks like for schools, because as you guys know, the board calendar is up to the board, and school districts across the state do calendars in a variety of ways. So start dates, end dates, instructional minutes, instructional times, all those things are different across the state. And the one thing that is consistent is this 1,062 instructional hours that every school district is required to meet. So Carla, if you'll go to the next slide. So as we think about this, and as we listen to the commissioner, we know that we have to continue to come back to what are our values if we believe that we want to continue to put people first. We want to continue to reimagine school and what that looks like. We know that it's crucial that we come back to our values and we see things through the lens of our values. And then specifically with NTI, from the beginning, we established our 3 priorities. So Carla, if you'll go to the next slide. Caring for, making sure our students have resources, and that's, as you guys have seen, it takes a tremendous amount of work from across the board. Connecting with our families and our students and in our schools to ensure that we continue to think about what does the future look like, what is the demand, and then really creating these meaningful opportunities. So the school calendar really is a function of all 3 of those priorities, right? How do we care for families? How do we ensure that we're thinking about the work, and how do we ensure that students have the best opportunity to do school in the most reasonable way possible? Because I think we can all agree that the one thing we know about NTI is that it was never intended to be a long-term option. Everybody has said that it was intended to be a day here, a day there, a couple days there. And so what does it look like then for the sake of our students, our staff, our faculty, our families, everyone else, to do the best thing possible? So next slide. Yesterday, Commissioner Brown released, and I'm not sure the name that he called it, but essentially what it said was that every school district in the state would have to get to 1,062 instructional hours. And really the purpose of that was for us to ensure that across the state that there was some level of equity for all students, right? So that we didn't have a district there are some districts that are there today at 1,062 hours. There are other districts like Jefferson County, Fayette County, others that were over a month and a half away. So as we think about how do we create some level playing field, the 1,062 hours come up over and over again. So what we did here on the left-hand side, or it says current calendar, that's what you guys have already approved. That's what existed. So before all this started, from August the 7th until March the 12th, we had 129 instructional days. Okay. Those instructional days, we can count 6 hours and 15 minutes or 6.25 hours every day that we're in school during that time. They our school with the lowest number of instructional minutes is 6.25. So that's where we have 806.25 instructional hours that we were at before any of the COVID-19 and that sort of thing started. Okay. Then what Commissioner Brown said yesterday was that he wanted school districts to be able to count 7 hours for every NTI day. So that changes things for us because before that announcement, NTI counted the same as a normal instructional day. So we were counting every NTI day as 6.25 hours. So what he said yesterday was every school district across the state, because we're all using NTI, can count a day as 7 instructional hours. All right. So that obviously changes things for us. So in order to get from 806.25, which is what we had prior to the quarantine, to the magical number, we needed 37 NTI days. All right. So that's kind of crazy to think about because before that, 10 was the maximum number. So we're at this place where we know that we have to get 37 instructional days, and you can see the math there. All right. So that means that if we when we started up until now and went all the way through, that we would go until May the 13th. That's when we would hit our magical number. All right. So Carla, if you go to the last slide. So you can see here all the days that we have currently gone. So we started on March the 17th. That was our first NTI day. If you remember, the 13th was already set up as a backpack day. The 16th was we already had off for a flexible professional learning day. So we actually started on the 17th. You can see all the days. So what we're proposing tonight for approval for you guys is that we would continue with NTI through May the 13th. That includes going on May the 1st. The reason, obviously, the Derby is not happening, so we wouldn't have Oaks to begin with. We also know that a lot of our NTI work is multiple day work anyway. It's big projects. It's multiple day activities, books that kids are reading, those sorts of things. So we're proposing to go through May 1st up until May the 13th, which is a Wednesday, and May the 13th will be our last NTI day with students. Then after May the 13th, May 14th and 15th would be off for everybody. And we know that by that time, our teachers, our principals, everyone needs that long weekend to reset. That gets us to 166 instructional days. And then the week after that occurs, and you can see it there, those would be the backpack days to get our teachers to fulfill their contractual days. So our principals and our district would plan some things with teachers over those 4.5 days the following week. So that is how the calendar would be amended. So just to recap, we had 129 days up till then, 806.25 hours. NTI allows us to count 7 hours every day. We have to get 37 days in. We did the math. That would take us up to May the 13th, including May 1st. Would take us up to May the 13th, which would be our last day with students. And then we would have the following week to get our contractual days for our certified staff and others. So I'm going to pause. I know there might be some questions, and I don't know, Mr. Bradley, if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, obviously this is a quick turnaround. We had 24 hours notice. It just so happened that we had a meeting already scheduled today. I think districts across the state are in the same conversation. Some districts have already made the decision. And the goal is to communicate this decision to our families tomorrow, making them aware of the conversation. I think we've been thinking about this for a few weeks leading up to this. Obviously, it was not, the details were unknown, but the idea of it potentially coming to life was something we had put some thought into. And I think after our conversations with principals yesterday, after we put this together, we feel good about the recommendation.
The recommendations heard. I need a motion to amend the 2019-2020 district calendar as recommended using NTI days and moving the last day of school to the 13th of May.
Motion.
A motion from Ms. Berry.
I'll second.
I hear 2 seconds.
Second.
Ms. Rebecca Dye. Second. Any further discussion? And I'll go through with roll call on voting. I'd like to start with Mr. Jackie, if you would verbally make your vote.
Aye.
Ms. Berry,
Aye.
Ms. Breeding,
Aye.
and Ms. McGuire.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Any nays? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Goff. The next portion. Section 4, operations consent agenda, includes our treasurer's report.
We got to go back real quick, Carla. Sorry.
What you need?
We have to talk about the graduation. Chase was going to go that it's on the same presentation, on the calendar presentation.
Okay.
So this has been a conversation as well with our high school principals and their teams over the past several weeks. We have a recurring weekly touch point with them, and kind of wanted to provide some clarity to you all about where our heads are. There's no decision that has to be made, I don't believe, tonight around this, but we wanted to just kind of let you know some things that are going on. So you can see there, our intention is to be able to send a letter by this Friday out to all of our families that have all of this information explained in writing, so that we know that they have a hard copy of that. They're not relying on some other type of communication. Carla, if you go to the next slide. So what we want to say is that high school graduation, that a student actually graduates on the same day that you all have already approved, right? So May the 22nd would be kind of the final date for any senior or any student that has work that they need to turn in through NTI, that their grade can continue to be calculated through there. We don't want to move the date up and then put a student in a bind that may be waiting on a final thing. So May the 22nd would kind of be the date. So what that means then is a student still technically finishes high school and quote unquote graduates on that May the 22nd date. But what we know is that we want to ensure that we have a ceremony that can really honor the work of those seniors. So just because they may graduate on the 22nd doesn't necessarily mean that the ceremony would be on the 22nd, right? So what we've asked both high schools to do, and they have both initiated this process, is to create a student graduation advisory group. So that'll look a little bit unique at both high schools, but both of them have reached out to some students that will help kind of frame what are some different options and what do we want our high school graduation to look like. I think if you go to the next slide, Carla. So here's some options that we've put forth, and this is a place for them to start. So option 1 would be delaying an in-person graduation. So it would look the same as it's always looked. It just might be in July, September, November. We're not sure. It would be whenever we're able to gather, and we would delay it for as long as we need it. Option number 2 would be a virtual option. So you're going to see districts across the state, I think, that are starting to look at this option. It's essentially, it'll be a way for us to all connect digitally, much like we're doing now, and be able to do some type of ceremony with students virtually online and what that could look like. Option number 3 would be an option with individual families. So we would establish a time at the school that we could bring in a student and their family at one time. They could kind of walk across the stage, get their diploma. We could have a picture, and then we could put all of those together to create like a video that is the full graduation ceremony, where we could have a speaker. I'm not sure what all it would look like, but that would be option number 3. Option number 4 is we set a date. Let's say we said July the 15th is graduation date. And by June 15th, we make a decision about what that looks like. So then we at least know that this is the date that graduation is occurring, and what it looks like kind of depends on what we're able to do. And then option number 5, the one I'm probably most excited about at this point, is maybe something else. We know that if we are serious about reimagining possibilities in the community table, there is a lot of value in getting our kids and our teacher leaders and our leaders in our schools together and thinking, is there another way that we can honor and celebrate these kids that we're not seeing or we're not thinking about? So essentially, the idea would be over the next few weeks, each of our high schools will create a student advisory group. They'll be walking through these options and exploring what are some possibilities. And we hope by our May work session or our May board meeting that we'll be able to we'll update you on the conversations for sure, but we'll be able to provide some more clarity in that regard.
Yeah, so our goal is to have a strong update at the May 5th work session. I think, I'm just texting and talking to superintendents around the state. Most districts have started the conversation, and they're working with student leadership teams. And I know we have a few teams coming together this week to begin that conversation, not just in our high schools, but also in our middle schools, and even in some of our elementaries as they think about 5th graders. I'm looking forward to the challenge of it because we want to make it a meaningful, powerful experience, whatever it looks like. And we have a team of people that can bring that to life in collaboration with our local schools. Obviously, the local schools will be leading much of this work, but we'll be collaborating and partnering with them in that process.
Gotcha. Very interesting short-term future for us on that, and can't wait to hear some of the team's ideas, and would love to give input. I'm sure I will along the way, a couple of weeks from now. Next is section 4, operations consent agenda. As I mentioned a minute ago, it consists of our treasurer's report, bills and claims, monthly financial report, balancing sheet, leaves of absence, and minutes from the previous meeting on March 17th. As well as the surplus bus sales. I need a motion to approve the consent items as they've been presented to us in advance.
Motion.
Mr. Jackie with the motion. Those need to unmute in order to second.
Second.
Ms. McGuire, second. Any further discussion? Mr. Jackie, I'll call for your vote.
Aye.
Ms. Berry.
Aye.
Ms. Breeding, please.
Aye.
And Ms. McGuire, aye, please.
Aye.
Aye as well. Any nays? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, section 5, personal notifications. Mr. Bradley.
Just information only, no required action. The board acknowledges receipt of personnel notifications.
Section 5B, our emergency days. Ms. Owens.
Good evening.
Evening.
So Senate Bill 177, also known as the COVID-19 and non-traditional instruction bill, was signed by the governor on March 24th, also known as the school relief bill.
most recognized for the ability to extend NTI instruction through the remainder of the school year. It also had several other provisions, and one of those provisions addressed emergency days for staff members. And what it stated was that it authorized school districts to provide additional emergency leave days for staff due to the COVID public health emergency. Of course, this type of flexibility is essential right now, and it does require board action. So I'm simply asking you to authorize the superintendent to award emergency days for staff as necessary due to the COVID-19 public health emergency.
Is there any limitations to the number of those emergency days?
No, one of the provisions of this was that it was flexible to the point that each school district needed.
Understood. Sure, there are areas that definitely need them. Glad we don't have any as of yet, or have we?
They're awarded to employees individually who have needs based on their need to be at home because they are ill, because they have a family member who is ill, or because they don't have childcare and can't be at work.
Understood. I need a motion to authorize our superintendent to award emergency days for staff as necessary due to the COVID-19 public health emergency.
I'll make the motion.
Motion, anyone second?
Second.
Any other further discussion? Mr. Jackie?
Aye.
Mrs. Berry, please.
Aye.
Mrs. Breeding, please.
Aye.
And Ms. McGuire, please.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Motion carries. Thank you, Amy. And you're up again for BG5.
Back again. So I have 11 BG5s attached that you've had access to for a while, and these will allow us to close out 11 projects that were completed in previous years. They were completed between 2007 and 2017. This is the last piece of paper required in order to close these out. So hopefully after this, we won't have to hear about them again. But in order to get them out of the state system, I have to be able to say that the board approved the BG5. So I am asking for your approval tonight on those documents.
What was the total savings on that?
I spoke to Tim about these, and his feeling was that these projects were like all the documentation was there to show what we had actually spent. We just didn't do the final piece of paper. So this is simply just uploading a final piece of paper that matched everything previously and closing it out. It wasn't a savings.
Okay, that's what I wanted, because I looked at it really carefully and I didn't see any savings. So I just thought maybe something was we were going to be lucky, but no such luck.
Sorry.
Ms. Owens, so I mean, this is more of just a formality, a paperwork piece.
That is correct. They're held in a system called Backpack until the final piece of paper is received. It is possible that it was approved at some point in the past and never went into the system, but I can't locate those. And so they suggested at the state level that we just have the BG5s approved.
And based upon, you said this was various projects that span 2007 through 17. I'd assume some of these are maybe like Foster Height renovation, a lot of Thomas Nelson High School work.
Yeah, there was actually there was a couple Thomas Nelson, there was some ELC work, and there were some really small projects, like $2,000 projects that were in there that that we have to clear out as well. So a lot of miscellaneous stuff.
Okay, thank you.
I'll motion to approve BG5 as presented.
Second.
Mr. Jackie seconds. I'll call for your vote after your second.
Aye.
Ms. Berry, please.
Aye.
Ms. Breeding.
Aye.
Ms. McGuire, aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. Any nays? Motion carries. Thank you so much. Section 5D is our capital first. I'm sorry, our screen went blank. Go to my backup screen here. Capital funds request.
Yes, we've spoken several times over the last several months about the need to do a capital funds request this year. And the reason we're doing that is because of the reduction in SEEK funding that we received and the increase in the amount of funding that we are being required to put into those FSPK funds. So what you have before you is a capital funds request for $537,625, and it'll be used to reimburse the general fund for several expenses that have already occurred, like paving and our property insurance, as well as the safety upgrades that were completed. And so I'm just asking tonight for your approval of this capital funds request so that I can submit it to state so that we can utilize those funds to reimburse Fund 1 for those expenses.
Understood. Okay, I need a motion to approve a capital funds request in the amount of $537,625 to cover the cost of allowable Fund 1 expenditures.
Motion.
Ms. Berry, motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Jackie, second, and I'll follow up with a request for your vote after your second.
Aye.
Ms. Berry, please.
Aye.
Ms. Breeding, please.
Aye.
Ms. McGuire, die, please.
Aye.
Aye as well. Any nays? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you again, Amy.
Thank you.
Section 5E, fiscal year 2021, salary schedules and job descriptions.
So I'm going to introduce the conversation that really we've been working on over the course of 4 months, but started the conversation with the board in early March. And every year we talked about this last year, the importance of our team looking closely at how we allocate resources through both salary scale and job descriptions and the alignment and health of those two. And this is something that I feel like is aligned to our first value of putting people first, and continues to really challenge us to think about how we are allocating resources across the district. Next slide. We've talked quite a bit in the last year and a half around the shifting nature of the work, and I think the shifts that we're recommending for business services, our business leaders and family caretakers are a part of that shift in the nature of the work. Really, as we've seen shared purpose and priorities and systems being built, we've also seen increased leadership across time and space, and I think that's part of the work. Unfortunately, this year, the state budget was revised based on the COVID-19, and they really didn't provide any additional SEEK access as they had originally promoted around a potential salary raise for all employees. That did not come through this year. And I think we all recognize that as we look towards the future, we will be able to, I need to stop there with Ms. Berry leaving the meeting.
I didn't notice that she had left.
She'll be right back.
We're on a group text simultaneously. Maybe we can check on her status.
I'll check on her if we can just pause this for just a moment.
Sure.
Okay.
writing's that easy.
I feel like we need some background music or something.
I can go grab my guitar if you need it. We still have a quorum, I believe, but I think Carla might be driving the presentation as well as searching for our fearless D1. So we'll wait, what, a few more minutes, or let's see, 6:35. There she comes.
We got you. You're back.
Sorry, don't know what happened.
It's all right.
I didn't even touch it,
You need to pay your bill there, Miss Barry.
probably.
Superintendent Bradley, feel free to carry on.
I'm just again introducing the idea. We can just move to the last slide. I think I have. We've talked quite a bit last year around traditional staffing as we think about future-centered staffing. We made some shifts last year that we thought were really important shifts, not only to the way we framed jobs and job descriptions, but the way we think about the roles and skills that are in demand for the future. And I think that we've invested a lot of time in that over the past 3 months to continue to embrace that. I remember saying last year that if we're not going back and adjusting quite a few job descriptions from one year to the next, then we're probably not doing our jobs. And I think that's something that I feel good about. I think the team, the process that's in place has continued to improve, and applaud both Robin and Amy on their work leading up to this point. So I will turn it over to you guys.
So Robin and I are just going to take a few minutes to walk you through what this process looked like over the past several months with the job description revision process really between January and March, and how that incorporated into the salary schedule revisions. And then, of course, as you all know, this is such a foundational part of being able to complete the tentative budget, which we will be presenting next month. And so I'm going to let Robin go over the next couple slides, and then I'll pop back in.
Just to echo the community-centered approach that Wes was speaking of, what happens behind the scenes before you guys get what you got in March during the work session to review over these last several weeks is what Carla's going to click on that little book down there. The HR team, Amy and I, and a few others kind of create this process of how to open up new templates and that kind of thing so that everything's in one place. We don't have things floating around that we can't find later. So Carla, if you'll just flip down a couple, I don't remember which slide it is. Yeah, keep going. So basically what happens is, can you flip to the next one, Carla? There we go. What happens is we put all the templates out there, and that's what you see in those links. And then as people finish those and as we upload them into, and you're watching all this go on in real time when you're looking at that review process that we gave you in March. But as things become green, and Carla, if you'll back up, that means that they're done. And so there's Kermit saying it ain't easy being green. But this is something that takes us a couple of months to get through. And one of the reasons is because of the community process that we use, where team leads are working on this in each of their departments, but they're also getting feedback and getting assistance from people that do the job on those job descriptions as well. And then that rolls back into the document that you'll see on the next slide, on the next big slide, Carla. There we go. Back up for me just one time, sorry. There we go. So what you saw there is just we've developed in team leads that go through a review process. And then, as you know, we gave you those in real time as we were working on them at that March work session. All right, Carla, I'm ready this time. Here we go. So basically, this is the review process that you've been going through since that March work session, where those items in step 2 that are inside the job description book, those items that are highlighted in cyan are either the job descriptions that are that have significant changes, or those that are new. But as Mr. Bradley said, we really, have a responsibility to at least review all 110 job descriptions, even if we don't make significant changes to all of them. I think we made significant changes to under 20. So I will let Amy take over with the salary schedule alignment.
So the next thing we do after we get those job descriptions reviewed is we really take a look at, days and work schedules, and we speak to team leads and ask them if what we have currently in those job descriptions are appropriate as well. And as we start building the salary schedule, we have to look at all of those things. And as we make those changes on several of the job descriptions, do those salaries still align, and are they comparable to other positions in our local economy, to other school districts? And how can we make sure that we are providing salaries that will allow us to recruit the type of employees that we want? And so it is an extensive process, but it's such an important one. And so it's never one that I want to just brush over and recreate and throw something in front of you, because it is such an important process. So this is what you were given in March to allow you to review the job descriptions. And then on the next slide, I just wanted to go over a couple high points just to let you know that there were no changes made to pay dates or pay processes this year. We also worked to create some consistency in workday calendars for our classified employees. So our nutrition services and our transportation services will all be on the same calendar. And then all of our instructional aides, regardless of whether it's a level 1, level 2, or level 3, will be on the same workday calendar. And we've worked with team leads on that. We made sure that any job descriptions with a reduction in days did not result in adjustment to the salary. So somebody who worked 181 days and is going down to 180 won't lose any pay. We just adjusted that hourly rate to make sure that they're getting the same salary, because the purpose of the adjustment of days was not to save money. It was to align our classified calendars to our certified calendars as well. And then we also added additional language where clarity was needed, and that's something that will have to be reviewed annually. So we did it this year, and we will continue to do it. And we use questions that we get throughout the year to kind of guide us on what areas need additional clarity. And then we also added some additional flexibility through our student and teacher leadership stipends as well, even more so than we did last year. And so that is the extent of the salary schedule. As Mr. Bradley said, there was no mandated salary increase. And so other than the phased in approach that we discussed previously with business services, we did not make any drastic adjustments to salary schedules. So I'm asking for your approval of salary schedules and job descriptions for fiscal year 2021.
Need a motion to approve the fiscal, or is there comments, questions?
Oh, no, I was jumping too soon on the motion. I'm excited about this one.
Fire away.
I make a motion to approve. I appreciate all the work and everything that's gone into this and the equity behind it. So thank you all. I know it was a big undertaking, so thank you. And I make a motion to approve it.
I need a second.
Second.
Ms. Berry seconds. Any further discussion? Mr. Jackie, I call for your vote.
Aye.
Ms. Berry.
Aye.
Ms. Breeding, please.
Aye.
And Ms. McGuire, aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. Any nays? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you so much, Amy. And Robin.
Thank you.
Section 6A, Head Start Memorandum of Agreement. Ms. Clark.
This is our annual MOA with Head Start. This allows us to help them provide services to students who qualify. So we provide speech, OT, and PT services once we determine that a student is eligible. We also collaborate with them in their processes for interventions to support each individual kid at Head Start who may need it. So again, this is just our annual MOA. Now ask for approval.
I need a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement between Nelson County Schools and Central Kentucky Head Start.
Motion.
Jackie, motions? I'll second. Any further discussion? Mr. Jackie, I call for your vote.
Aye.
Ms. Berry, please.
Aye.
Ms. Breeding, please.
Aye.
Ms. McGuire, aye, please.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Any nays? Motion carries. Thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you all.
Section 6B, KDE, MOA. Hi, Laura.
Hey, okay, Carla, if you can pull up the presentation. As you all know, over the past year, we have had numerous conversations around the Area Technology Center and really focusing those discussions around how we make closer connections with the staff at the ATC and really thinking about how we can have more local ownership of the programming and experiences taking place at the ATC. So in order to do that, this past year, we created some memorandums of agreement with the Kentucky Department of Education so that some of the staff could be Nelson County staff. Well, during this past legislative session, House Bill 352, which was the budget bill, had some language placed into that bill that will actually give school districts the opportunity to ask for local control of an area technology center. And with that, there would be funds. So in the past, there's always been legislation where districts could request to take management and ownership of the state-operated ATC, but there hasn't been funding attached to that past the first year. So House Bill 352 allows for local boards of education to request local control of their ATC. During the first year of that ownership, the district would receive 100% of those funds. After the first year, the district would get 75% of those funds. This would allow all of the ATC staff, which now are mostly state employees, this would allow them to transition to local district employees. And with that, the budget bill has language that we would still want to provide, that would still allow access to some of our partnering districts that send students to the ATC, because in the budget bill, they want to ensure that a district is still providing opportunities for their region if the school has previously served other districts. So the bill does ask that there be an interlocal agreement between the managing district and those districts that would be partnering with that managing district. So for us, Bardstown has historically been a partnering district, and over the past year, LaRue has come to the table through some of the new skills for youth work that we've spent the last couple of years working on. So with this budget bill, Nelson County would have the opportunity to become the district that could step up and request ownership of the ATC. So the next slide, Carla. We're going to be spending some time with you all over the next couple of meetings, really talking through what this could look like. So currently, we have started communication with our partnering districts around what it would look like if Nelson County became the manager of the ATC. and what could possibly be in an interlocal agreement to allow access to those other districts and their students. So we'll probably be looking at May, where we would maybe want to bring a draft interlocal agreement for you to review and really start talking through what the process could look like for Nelson County Schools to request ownership and management of the ATC, in hopes that we can maybe look at a July date of actually having management of that center. But we recognize that this is a process and that we want to make sure we're thoughtful through that process. So tonight, we're actually exploring just renewing the memorandums of agreement that we currently have with the Kentucky Department of Education. So the next slide lays those out. We want to continue the MOAs that we currently have with the welding instructor, the health science instructor. We also have an MOA for the principal, and we're going to have a second vacant health science teacher. So we'll be asking to continue to add that MOA. So we're actually requesting that we approve 4 memorandums of agreement this evening with the Kentucky Department of Education, with us continuing conversations between now and June on what it could look like for us to request management and control of the ATC, receiving 100% of funds first year and 75% thereafter.
Just to clarify, if in July we move into a position to approve local transition, local control, we feel confident in the budgeting process. Laura did some analysis on that over the last 6 months and felt confident that we would have flexibility to continue to do some things. This is in many ways a precursor that simply allows us to hire. And again, the law, the bill passed, the law was shifted, and we were able to begin this conversation. But until we sort through the details, we just want to be able to hire.
I've got a question. Will these teachers be in the same retirement system or system that we have now? And will there still apply the same as our what you call regular teachers do? Will they have the same sick days? Will it follow the same guidelines as our teachers have present?
So the teachers at the Area Technology Center are certified teachers, and they do pay into KTRS, so it will be the same retirement system. Their sick days come with them when they make that transfer. So it's just a matter of transitioning from the state being their employer to a district being their employer.
Okay, but the state, they don't get any more advantages than we do they? Like, do they get more sick days? Do they get more, if we're going to hire, this is my point. If we're going to hire them and we're going to have responsibilities for it with them, are they going to follow the same guidelines that our teachers have?
Mr. Bradley, I see you shaking your head. Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I think that's part of the intention behind the transition is, and I can't speak for everybody that voted for it, but I can say that part of the intention is that the local collaborative model and the locally owned model is going to allow for a healthier and more powerful integration of team members. Again, every district's different, but that's the assumption that they were working from. So yes, they would be really on the same standing as any other teacher across the Nelson County schools.
Okay, that's because Ms. Arnold, I saw your eyes light up when I asked that. Like, oh, I don't, I just want to make sure because fair is fair. If we're taking responsibility for them and we're hiring them, I don't want people to think that there's going to be any kind of difference in between the teachers over there and Nelson County teachers. So that's the reason why I asked. So thank you.
Gotcha. I'm curious, one of the questions I haven't asked thus far, I know this is a great thing for our local community, but have there been other districts assume or take advantage of this opportunity, and any success stories that go along with that?
So historically, there have been districts that have requested management of the ATCs, but they haven't been able to keep the funding because the current law did not allow that. So this new law allows us to look at 75% of the funding in the future. So since this bill passed on April 15th, there hasn't been anyone, I think, make the official request yet, but I think there has been numerous conversations out in the field about other districts looking at this as a great opportunity for their community.
Great opportunity for Nelson County to lead once again.
Ms.
I got
Arnold,
one. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
well, I was just going to ask, so I wanted to make sure that, because it sounds like we've got two items that are kind of in play here. One being the request to approve the 4 MOAs, and we're doing that because regardless of what happens over the next 4 months, we've got to have those positions. So that's kind of like our, I guess I would say, our safety net to continue to make sure that the Area Technology Center has the human resources they need. And then in parallel, from looking at that map a few slides back that Carla had shared, that over the next couple months, working on figuring out the interlocal agreements, yeah, that timeline for transition slide there, that will give us time over the next 3 months, well, a little bit less than 3 months now, to be able to work towards a potential July 1st ownership of the ATC by us as being the managing authority, correct?
Yes, so the request tonight is that the 4 MOAs get approved pending KBE final approval. That's the immediate ask, but we felt like that conversation relates to the possibility of having ownership come July. So we wanted you to kind of see what this looks like 2 or 3 months down the road to make steps toward that full control and ownership. But tonight's request is to approve the 4 MOAs, so we continue employment or post new jobs where we need new jobs posted for those individuals.
And it sounds like doing this can potentially set us up, and by saying doing this, that concept of local ownership of the ATC program could set us up to be much more, even more agile and more flexible than we have been over the past year under your guidance and Mr. Bradley's guidance. And the huge plus potentially being the funding mechanism, which has never been there in the past.
Oh, I got one more. Are we going to have, I mean, I assume Nelson County will do the hiring. Is that true? Is that, okay, now, if we're going to join with these other districts, are we going to have any, I don't want to say problems, don't get me wrong. Are we going to have any, what's the word I'm trying to use here? Because each district would potentially see something different.
Pushback?
Thank you. Yes, because each district will see something different, and I just want to make sure if we're the ones that's going to be responsible for it, that that they're by our guidelines or what we foresee in a teacher. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the employees will be employees of Nelson County Schools, and the Nelson County Board of Education will be the governing board. There will be an advisory board. The schools had an advisory board for several years, but really trying to reimagine and re-envision that advisory board where our partners can be at the table and thinking through opportunities, because it's really more about thinking about what opportunities and experiences are needed for our students regionally to help support the workforce. So there will be some type of interlocal because the law requires that among the districts, but being very clear that Nelson County would be the governing body of the school.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the MOAs with the Kentucky Department of Education regarding these positions.
Motion.
Ms. Berry motions. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Breeding has a second. Well, can't say all in favor. Mr. Jackie, I call for your vote again.
Aye.
Ms. Berry, please.
Aye.
Breeding, please.
Aye.
Ms. McGuire, die, please.
Aye.
And aye as well. Any nays? Obviously not. If we're all our ayes, motion carries. Thank you very much, Laura. Let's see. 6C, grant application. Miss Lee, I see you.
Good evening. How are you all?
Good.
Good. I have two applications from New Haven. The first is for a request to submit for a $5,000 grant award through the National Carton to Garden Contest for garden creations in which students would use repurposed milk and juice cartons. And the second is through the University of Kentucky, and they would provide our students with a Green Power USA program kit to build a vehicle, which is essentially equivalent to a soapbox derby vehicle from renewable and reusable items, and they do sponsor races and competitions with that. That one requires a $500 match, and the school has proposed getting sponsorships or using fundraising money to meet that match. So those are our two grants, and I'm requesting that the board approve the applications for grants.
That all sound very interesting. May I approve the grant? I make a motion. I don't want to approve anything right now, but I make a motion to approve these two applications as presented, please. Do I have a second? Mr. Jackie seconds. I'll call for your vote.
Aye.
Ms. Berry, please.
Aye.
Ms. Breeding, please.
Aye.
Ms. McGuire, die, please.
Aye.
Aye as well. Any further discussion, questions, thank yous? Ms. Lee, thank you so much.
Thank you. And I am back again. And this time I am requesting that the board accept the 21st Century Community Learning Center grant that we've been awarded by the Kentucky Department of Education. And this is the program that provides after-school and summer learning program for a 5-year project period to Foster Heights Elementary. The value of the grant is $675,000 across the 5-year grant period. The first 3 years are $150,000 each, and then there's a reduction in funding in year 4 to $125,000 and to an even $100,000 in year 5. And so I am asking that the board accept this grant award and also grant permission to enter into the MOA with the Kentucky Department of Education when that is issued in the coming weeks.
Wonderful. Might I entertain someone make a motion to accept this grant and approve the contract as presented?
Motion.
Ms. Berry made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Jackie seconds. I'll call for your vote, sir.
Aye.
Ms. Berry?
Aye.
Ms. Breeding?
Aye.
Ms. McGuire, die, please.
She just froze mid sentence.
And the frozen picture looks like an eye, but I can't be for sure.
Aye.
There she is. Thank you. Aye as well. Any nays? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Lee. I appreciate it. Wonderful news.
Thank you.
Great news.
Section 7A, our calendar, Mr. Bradley.
No updates to the calendar this time. We come back together in 2 weeks on May 5th, and that conversation will allow us to look at some of the pieces around graduation and some of the work going on that we know will continue to be very important to our families over the coming weeks. We'll also begin conversations looking at the tentative budget, and as you all know, the state only set a 1-year budget, so that'll give us a conversation that is going to allow allow for a lot of variables to come into play as we think about that. But we'll be sharing that information out over the course of the next week as we continue to prepare for that tentative budget. At this time, no changes to the May board meeting schedule or thereafter.
Okay, thank you. Section 8. We will convene to executive session per KRS 61.8101B for deliberations on future acquisition of real property. May I have a motion to convene executive session?
I'll make a motion to convene regular session. To convene executive session.
There we go.
Sorry.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
I heard 2 seconds. I think Mr. Jackie was first. Mr. Jackie, I call for your vote.
Aye.
Mrs. Berry, please.
Aye.
Ms. Breeding, please.
Aye.
Ms. McGuire, aye, please.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. See you in the closed session in just a few minutes.
So just a reminder, we're going to close out of this one, everyone except Carla and Brooke, who will be in.
All right.
Need two more.
David's there, Miss Berry's there, Mr. Bradley's there. Leading on Miss McGuire Dye and
Miss Breeding. Oh, there we go.
she's here.
Give me just a second, I'm calling Brooke. She says we're good.
Okay,
Looks like we're still waiting for Miss Dye to come down the hallway.
I think so. Aha,
I'm back
she's
again.
back. I think we have everyone.
Sorry, I had a little technical difficulty.
Well, that's to be expected for the first ever virtual Nelson County Board of Education board meeting. So I think we did quite well. There was no decision made during executive session, and I need a motion to reconvene regular session for the Nelson County Board of Education.
Motion.
Mr. Jackie, motions. Need a second?
Second.
Mr. Guarda, second. Let's see, Mr. Jackie, your vote, please.
Aye.
Ms. Berry, please.
Aye.
Ms. Breeding, please.
Aye.
Ms. McGuire, please.
Aye.
Aye as well. None opposed. Motion carries. And if I can get a motion to adjourn our regular session.
Motion.
Ms. Berry, motion.
Second.
Ms. McGuire, second. Mr. Jackie, your vote, please.
Aye.
Ms. Berry.
Aye.
Ms. Breeding.
Aye.
Ms. McGuire.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you very much. Is there anything else you guys would like to chat about? If so, we can create another meeting session.
Hey, I just wanted to
Everybody.
reconfirm what you said, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
This meeting went so smooth, I think, between what Brooke and Carla and Jesse were doing behind the scenes.
Yes.
I mean, I've heard from some of the districts I work with where, I mean, they've had some challenges and ours went so smooth.
Great.
So we're all geniuses.
Yeah, thanks to all the people behind the scenes, and to my whopping 6 meg service here. I can't believe I still made it, but it made it.
Way to go.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Everyone.
Good night.
Good night.